International Women's Day is March 8th, and Rakuten takes the time to celebrate at locations around the world throughout the month. This year's global theme was Give to Gain, and Rakuten, through these celebrations, aimed to advance gender equity by encouraging employees to give opportunities, visibility, and support to all genders to enable individuals and the organization to gain sustainable growth. Let's look at some examples. In Singapore, an insightful panel discussion on shared responsibility and supporting others in the workforce was held.
I think inclusion can be for me has been very small but consistent ways. For example, just being included in some of the discussions where some decisions making is involved. Even if I'm the most junior person in the room, or even a senior taking on a couple of minutes to just give some context, that patience and without the assumption of I know everything, I think it goes a long way.
Once the team feels that the boss has their backs, right? They are there, they're in front, beside and behind you, that trust and the willingness to go further increases.
Attendees also curated personalized gift sets for women they want to recognize at a crochet flower booth. It was a fantastic day of connection and appreciation. Meanwhile, the team in China celebrated together both the Lantern Festival and Women's Day, a special double holiday in Beijing, Shanghai, and Dalian. From crafting glowing handmade lanterns and solving lantern riddles to making sweet tong yuan and stitching fragrant sachets, every moment was filled with tradition, creativity, and laughter. There also was a goddess compliment wall where everyone shared kind words and uplifting messages. In India, activities centered on self-time, hobbies, and personal well-being. Among the activities, a PCOS wellness session was hosted, emphasizing management and support. There was also a guest talk by Sangeeta Gururaj, followed by a special lunch. A flash mob in the cafeteria added a memorable highlight, followed by a health and wellness checkup camp. Rakuten India also proudly recognized women completing 10 years at Rakuten.
Happy Women's Day!
In the EMEA region, the newly founded EMEA ERG Arise hosted a panel discussion on the Give to Gain theme with employees from across the region.
I think real sponsorship is when you're using your influence. Everyone has some kind of influence on some kind of circle. So think about what your influence is. Think about the people you know, the circles that you're working in, and how can you use that, right, to bring someone else forward.
Rakuten offers so many great resources and courses, how you can expand your knowledge base. So I think explore the Rakuten resources and take opportunities to find those courses, because you can gain great insights about your strengths and the way that you operate as a leader.
So my tip today is to say yes to things, even if it's outside of our comfort zone or it's not really your dream job, but because it can give back in really unexpected ways sometimes.
Meanwhile, the women at Rakuten ERG in the Americas held a session on building confidence, the first in a confidence-themed series planned through 2026.
Self-compassion is an incredibly potent tool. So the more we employ the inner coach, the more we have the capacity to support ourselves from the inside. So in the chat, what words come to mind when you think about self-compassion? Alex, you're saying giving grace. Beautiful. Allowing ourselves to make mistakes. Erin, being kind to your inner child. Yes, yes, yes. What did your inner child not receive that you can give them? I heard this beautiful thing recently that we become, in some contexts, who we needed when we were a child. That's healing. That's ultimate healing.
Various Rakuten international businesses also got into the spirit of the month through activities and posts on social media. In Japan, a seminar, workshop, and wellness cafe were held based on 3 theme categories: awareness, development, and network. To increase awareness and engagement among Rakutenians, a Know the Body, Prepare for Your Future Women's Life Cycle seminar was held with special guest Dr. Miho Egawa of Kyoto University Hospital.
健康の土台を整えるということはですね、その特別なもの、特別なサプリが効くんだというよりもですね、もう基本的なこと、睡眠、栄養、運動、そして心の在り方、今日は時間の都合もありまして、主に鉄について、これは女性の共通課題だと思うからです。医学的な定義は酸素を運搬できなくなる状態なんですね。その原因の多くが鉄不足です。この1年間の55万人の中で貧血に該当する人が9万人、これを対象にした研究なんですけれども、男性も女性も半々で含まれています。診断がちゃんとついている人が半分にも満たないということと、診断の上で治療できている人がさらに少ないという、多くの方が未治療だということなんです。
Then, to support career growth, a workshop titled Unleash Your Potential, Breaking Through Mental Barriers was held, with real employees sharing how they moved beyond self-imposed limits. During the session, participants examined their own self-imposed limits. For example, the cautious type, who tends to preemptively feel anxious about the future, which often causes them to hold back their own potential. To address this, concrete tips were shared, such as treating your career as a short-term challenge that you can reevaluate later, rather than a life-altering commitment, making the first step easier. Finally, women at Rakuten were able to network at the Career and Wellness Cafe to discuss careers and childcare, as well as infertility treatment, menopause, and menstrual symptoms. Rakuten Group continues to promote and support diversity in the workforce.
Manager, but I think it's the same thing for everyone.